Hello, everyone. I am Melody Wilding, and I am so excited that you're here today. I want to welcome you to today's free masterclass, Your Personal Brand Plan, 8 Action Steps to Build an Authentic Personal Brand and Elevate Your Career. So we are going to get started in just a minute, but as you are coming on, do say hello in the chat box here on Zoom. Let me know where you're watching from today so I can say hello and shout you out. So I see we have Anne and Rebecca, hello, Yvette, Stuart, Ronnie, amazing, amazing. And we might have people joining us as they're able to get on Zoom here. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. But before we do, just a few logistics. You will get more out of this webinar if you interact, which I am loving everything I'm seeing in the chat already, so keep it up. But I want to encourage you to participate. Everyone is muted, but you can comment and tell me what's resonating with you, what you're finding most interesting. That's what the chat box here in Zoom is for. We are going to try to leave time for Q&A at the end. So if you do have a question, I want to suggest that you save that for the end, since the chat tends to move quickly here and I don't want it to get lost in there. And you are welcome and encouraged to take notes, but just keep in mind you will get a recording of this presentation afterwards and you will get the slides. So I don't want you to feel like you have to be crazy writing down every single word I say. So you'll have that so you can refer back to it again and again. I want to start off by acknowledging you all for being here today. I know you are all very busy people. You have a lot of ways you could spend your time, and I'm very grateful that you are choosing to spend it here with us today. And the fact that you're proactively choosing to spend a part of your day learning about personal branding is the mark of someone who really cares about setting themselves up for success. And I'm also guessing that you're a doer, you're an action taker, which is perfect because we're going to be focusing on personal branding strategies that you can walk away with after this training and implement today. I created this masterclass with 2 different types of people in mind. And if you're here, you probably fall into one of these categories. So the first is professionals who want to gain more influence and opportunities at their current or future jobs. And the second are entrepreneurs. So these are the current or aspiring small business owners, freelancers who want to stand out and attract more customers. I would love to get a sense of who we have here today. So tell me which one of these, employer or entrepreneur, sounds more like you. So you can go ahead and type it, just that one word, into the chat there. Great, so Morgan said both, which is totally cool. I did that for a long time too. Howard, entrepreneur, Patrick, entrepreneur, Melanie, employee, Erica, employee. Yeah, so we have a great mix of both types of people and a few people who are doing, it sounds like, the full-time employee lifestyle and the side hustle thing. So this is great. Both, and a couple aspiring entrepreneurs. So this is great. No matter which category you fall into, there's one thing that you have in common, I'm going to guess. And that is you really care about doing work that makes an impact and sharing your gifts with the world in a meaningful way. The problem is you might just need a little bit of help presenting that value and putting your best foot forward, which is exactly what this webinar is going to help you do. So many of you know me, but for those of you who are new to my community, I am Melody Wilding. I'm an executive coach who has worked with clients at companies like Google, Facebook, HP, IBM, and many others. And my specialty is helping smart, goal-oriented people just like you stop doubting yourself so you can reach your full potential. I am also a professor of human behavior at a university here in New York, and I write about psychology and leadership for a number of sites, Inc., Quartz, Forbes, and Business Insider. And I have helped hundreds of people just like you figure out how to understand their strengths and create successful careers and businesses that are in more alignment with their personality and their natural strengths. And we also have a special partner for this webinar today. So this masterclass is brought to you by my friends at Beautiful.AI. So Beautiful is a smart presentation software that designs your presentations for you in real time. It's a really important tool to add to your personal brand toolbox because it will help you bring your brand to life more quickly, easily, and much more professionally. So some of you might remember that I did a webinar with Beautiful late last year, and there is absolutely a reason that I have decided to partner with them again. It's because this is a tool I personally use to create my presentations, including the one you're going to watch today. So I strongly believe in what they are doing to help revolutionize the way we work. And I know that if you give this tool a try once, you will be hooked just like I was. So you can visit melodywilding.com/beautiful. And if you sign up in the next week, you will have access to the full suite of features completely for free. And that includes dozens of smart templates, free stock photos, icons, and you're going to see a lot of that on display today. And we have a lot of people in the chat that Morgan saying, I love Beautiful. Carol, I too have found it to be wonderful. Melanie loves Beautiful. Yeah, it's an incredible tool and it saves you so much time and your presentations look better than if you had a graphic designer do them yourself. So check that out. Great. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to cover today. You are going to discover what it means to have a personal brand and why it matters. You'll understand the 3 elements all the best personal brands have, and I'll help you overcome insecurities that might be standing in your way of actually putting your best self out there. And you're going to walk away with that 8-step action plan. And finally, I will share a few tools that will help you create a best-in-class personal brand and really elevate your presence. What all of this means for you is that by the end of our time together today, you will understand the importance of personal branding, know what actions you can take to build your personal brand, and have a toolbox of tools that will help you bring that to life. So let's start by understanding what it even means to have a personal brand. So really simply put, your personal brand is the intersection of how you see yourself and how other people see you. So in other words, it's matching your inner values to the perception that other people have of you. And your personal brand is so much more than just your job description. It's your reputation in your industry. It's a persona that follows you around. It's the public image that you put out there and you portray to the world. So your personal brand is presenting the total package of who you are, what you stand for, and the value you provide. It's that combination of your strengths and your experience. But your personal brand also has a tangible visual component. So it's things like the tone you take and the look of how you present yourself to others, whether that be to your current employer, potential employers, your colleagues, customers. And much like the brand of a company, your personal brand is the emotional reaction someone has after they have an interaction with you. So it's the impression you leave. It's the impression people walk away with after interacting with you, be it in person or nowadays digitally. So let's take a look at a few examples to really illustrate how branding at a high level, how powerful it can be. So I want you to consider 2 hotel chains. So on one side, we have Motel 6, and on the other side, we have Four Seasons. So what comes up for you when you think about the difference between these 2? What words do you associate with each? So when you think about Motel 6, what comes to mind? I want to see some words in the comments there. So Francois said grade. Jordan said something similar, low versus high, cheap versus luxury, commodity, cheap, quaint. That's a good one. Budget, price, value, road trip, easy place. Yeah, there's instantly all these associations that come to mind with Motel 6. And how about the Four Seasons? So what comes to mind when you think about the Four Seasons? Quality, customer service, luxury, glam. Yep. So full service, wealth, high profile guests. Whereas when you think about Motel 6, words like budget, convenience, low maintenance come to mind. Or how about Apple versus Microsoft? So what comes to mind when you think of Mac? Money. Money, Morgan said. Design, expensive, simple, high tech, creative, quality. Yep. And how about Microsoft? Functional, business, officey. Yeah. So you might associate Apple with their white, sleek, clean look and designs and innovation. And Microsoft maybe blue, corporate, and even clunky, stodgy software, Kate said. Yeah. Workhorse. That's a great one, Jeff. And even celebrities have personal brands. So just think about the difference of what comes up when you think about Kim Kardashian versus Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey. So when you think about Kim Kardashian, you might think about chic Hollywood socialites, Calabasas, California. And with Oprah, you may think about her favorite things list, and Christmas time and gifts might come up, spirituality, personal development. Yeah, a lot of people are actually saying like Kim Kardashian is a little more surface level, vapid. Yeah, so these women, they're both icons, right? But they have two very different personal brands. Now, the power of personal branding really comes down to human psychology. So our brains are designed to save energy. That is their number one job. So in order to do that, we make snap judgments about people, not because we're bad or stupid, but because our brain likes mental shortcuts. So we have this tendency to fall into something that's called the halo effect, which means that we judge a person based on one key quality or attribute, and then we extrapolate that to the rest of their personality uh, and their characteristics. So for example, the most common example is if you think of someone who is very attractive, we tend to think of attractive people as intelligent and friendlier. Whether it's true or not, that's kind of what our brain goes to first. And this also extends to personal brands too. So if you present yourself in a professional, put together way, you will come across as more successful, capable, and competent. It builds trust. And most people really fail to consider how much they have control over this and how much you can direct the perceptions of other people in the way you want to make it a more positive. But that's exactly what we're going to talk about today, how to put your best foot forward. Now, beyond just managing the perceptions people have of you, there's a lot of other tangible reasons you should invest your time in creating a personal brand. It can help distinguish you by helping you get a promotion or be tapped for new projects at work. Becoming an expert in your industry positions you for new leadership opportunities. People take you more seriously because you have authority and credibility. You can attract new customers to you. So your personal brand really creates an instant connection between people and your audience. So they'll feel like you instantly get them and will be quicker to want to work with you. And you gain confidence and permission to be yourself. So when you have an understanding of who you are and where you want to go, you can be the director of your career instead of just letting it happen to you. And you can create a strong network of people you can rely on. So in all the people I've worked with, and even for myself, a funny thing really starts to happen when you build your personal brand. And Diana says I have to click the side to animate it. Sorry about that. There we go. Now you should see all the things. You're probably like, what is she talking about? So there you go. So a funny thing happens when you start creating your personal brand. You start to attract other like-minded people who want to support you. And the bottom line is that today it's simply no longer enough to be good at what you do. You can't put your head down and expect people to notice you. You have to be the one to make the effort to differentiate yourself, to explain your value to other people. Because if you don't, it's all too easy to be overlooked with all of the other noise that is going on out there. And that's exactly, your personal brand helps you do that. So it allows you to position yourself so that you can track new opportunities that are aligned with who you are, what you're best at, and what you enjoy doing the most. So now that you have an understanding of what a personal brand is and how it elevates your career, let's explore the 3 elements that the best personal brands have. So the first one is clarity. And that means you are clear about who you are and what you offer, as well as what you don't. So Morgan brought up a really great point, that you can't be everything to everyone. Because if you try to do that, you just end up being generic. And strong personal brands are based on differentiation, not blending in. Next, we have consistency. So consistency means that you deliver on what you say you will. You have the same message each time someone interacts with you. Consistency also means that you present yourself online in a consistent manner, online and offline. So the same person you are in person when someone meets you is the same person they see online, and across all platforms. And then we have constancy. So constancy translates to making your personal brand visible to the right people who need to know you. So you can't disappear for months on end and hope that people will remember you. You need to build and nurture your relationships in a regular way and find tools that allow you to communicate with your audience or your target market regularly. Okay, now before we move forward, I want to check in, see how you're doing. So based on what I've shared so far, how do you feel about your personal brand? So you can type in a smiley face, you can type in 1, 2, or 3. Are you number 1? Great, I'm feeling like my personal brand is solid. Feeling a little more like 2. It's muddled, could be better. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of 2s. Or option number 3, my personal brand is non-existent. Great, so seeing a lot of 2s, which is great. That means there's room for improvement, right? 2.5s, very nice. 1.5, okay, fair, great. So if you are not feeling great about your personal brand right now, that is totally okay. Because with a little bit of effort, you can improve in no time. And even if you feel good about your brand right now, the action steps that we're going to cover soon will help you take things to the next level. Whenever we start talking about branding and getting visible, it triggers insecurities. So I want to go there. It brings up all sorts of fraudy feelings. Like, I'm not an expert. If I talk about myself, people will think I'm bragging. And one I hear a lot is, what if I don't live up to expectations? So does any of that sound familiar? Some of those fraudy thoughts? Yeah, that fear, insecurity, anxiety, the worrying. We worry about being rejected, or, a lot of us have this constant need for approval. Very personal, right? And these emotional issues can really get in the way of putting yourself out there if you let them. And in my experience, there are 2 key mental barriers that really get in the way of building a powerful personal brand. And the first is that you don't think you have any strengths, or that your strengths aren't notable enough. So right now, some of you may be thinking that, Melody, this all sounds great, but I have nothing unique to offer. How many of you think that? I have nothing unique to offer. I'm getting a lot of chores. Yep. Yeah. And if this is something you've ever thought or felt, you're not alone. Because if I had $1 for every time clients said this to me, then I would be a very rich woman. And it's normal not to be aware of what your strengths are. And that's because they come so naturally to you, they're right under your nose. You can't see them. So in just a moment, we're going to go through how to articulate your strengths and get a better reflection of what those are. But I want to say that the things that come easy to you don't come easily to other people. So I want you to specifically think about what those are. What are the things that just feel natural, come so easy to me that I don't even think about them? And the next belief is that you feel like self-promotion is sleazy. So how many people said that? I saw some people that said, um, talking about yourself feels like bragging. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of yeses for that. Yeah. And sure, it feels guilty, right? It feels like you're hogging the spotlight and who's going to want to hear you talk about yourself and all of that. And so I want to reframe this thought right here and now and encourage you to see self-promotion as service. So that's something I want you to repeat to yourself. Self-promotion is service. Because if you're like most of the people I work with, then you have a huge heart and you know that you were put here to do great things. And you have a responsibility to share that. If there are people out there that you can help, it is contingent on you to do everything you can in your power to reach those people. So promoting yourself isn't sleazy. It's actually part of your job. And you're doing your duty to help as many people as possible. And promoting yourself, in most cases, is not off-putting. In fact, it's the opposite if you do it correctly, because it makes it easier for people to find you, to work with you, to refer to you, all of the above. So you're actually making people's jobs easier. Now, so far, we've talked about what it means to create a strong personal brand, how it can grow your career. We've also gone through those two big mental hurdles that can stand in your way. So now it's time to dive into our 8 strategies, your personal brand plan, and those action steps that you can take to elevate your personal brand today. Now, your very first step is to understand how people already perceive you. So in other words, what is your reputation right now? What qualities do people associate you with? This is the very first strategy I wanted to start out with, because you need to take a baseline and find out how other people see you. As I mentioned earlier, we are so close to our strengths that we can't see them, but other people can. So sometimes we need some outside objective help to point out what we're best at, put some language around that, and put words to our qualities and strengths. So your first action step is to do what I call a personal 360. And this is designed to give you a better idea of how people perceive you. So if you've ever done a 360 survey at work before, then you know how this works, but essentially it's a process where you get well-rounded anonymous feedback from the people around you that you can use to improve yourself. So I like to suggest that you aim to get feedback from 5 to 10 people. Not everyone will respond, so you want to ask a lot of people. And these can be coworkers, your boss, direct reports, business partners, colleagues, people in your network. If you are really interested in going in depth with it, that's something that can be done through coaching. But I want to suggest you start with a simpler version. And you can make this really simple. You can put together a free Google form and ask people these 3 questions. So what is your general perception of me? What do you think are my 3 best qualities? What could I do differently that would have the greatest impact on my success? And after you receive your feedback, you want to look for patterns. So what skills or traits come up over and over again? How does the perception other people have of you line up with how you wish to be perceived? And what needs to change? And I know getting feedback is scary. I got some like nervous emojis in the chat. but it's also incredibly valuable because the self-awareness you will gain from this exercise can help you refine your personal brand going forward. Your personal brand is about what you aspire to be and who you aspire to help, not necessarily just what you do today. And I often see people make this mistake. They focus on everything they're doing right now versus thinking about the future and what they want to be doing. So the fundamental question you have to answer is, what do I most want to be known for? And sometimes we get so caught up in attending to the urgent matters of the day that and getting things done that we fail to think about the longer term view of what we want for our careers and our lives. So self-reflection, thinking about how to align your values with your strengths, your values and strengths with your work, rather, is key to creating a personal brand that actually feels true to who you are. So one way I help my clients do this is with an exercise that's called your best possible future self. And this is actually a very heavily researched psychology intervention that has been proven to help people reach their goals and feel happier while doing it. So your action step is to complete this best self exercise. And it's very simple and easy to do. So in a nutshell, you want to picture yourself thriving at your absolute best during some point in the future. And this is it's most effective when this is done as a journaling exercise. Even if it's just fragmented thoughts, it's important to commit that vision to paper. So step one is to pick a time frame in the future. And to make this exercise practical and more immediately applicable, I suggest narrowing down that frame of time to 6 months to 2 years from today. And that's because trying to imagine your life 5 years or 10 years from now is very difficult to wrap your head around and will probably just overwhelm you. So one sec. Anyway, let's see. I'm not sure. I have Diana from Beautifuls. Let me know that my picture might be blocking the slide. I'm not sure if I can move that. Did that change anything? Let me know. Yeah, you can move, you should be able to move the picture. Let's see. You can move the picture on your end, I believe. Yes. Okay, good. Then I'm going to move mine back. Okay, sorry for that. Yeah, if anyone sees my picture or the chat blocking the slides, you can move that around on your end. So just so you know, and thank you for people in the chat who chimed in with that. Okay, so back to number 2 with the best self exercise. So you want to imagine a bright future as if a magic wand was waved. What goals would you have accomplished? What dreams would have become a reality? What's happened in your career, your relationships, for your health? And then the third step is to identify specific attributes of you at your best. So this is where doing your best to really describe that vision in detail is really important. So when you are thinking about you at your best, I really want you to visualize, how are you spending your time? What are you working on? Who are you spending that time with? How do you feel while you're doing that? What are you thinking? And visualize this in detail. Before you walk away from this exercise, I want you to identify one small thing from the version of your best self that you could start implementing today. And small steps add up over time, especially if you're consistent. So you'll be surprised by how quickly you can actually start to make that best self a reality. So we've been talking a lot about doing the inner work to discover and embody your personal brand, but it's also important to realize that your personal brand is not 100% about you. And I know that sounds really counterintuitive, but your personal brand is also about conveying what type of value you bring to other people, whether that be your company, your customers. You have to know yourself, but you also have to understand what people need and be very skilled at explaining how you solve their problems. So in other words, you have to have what is called a niche. And a niche means you concentrate your efforts on serving a small but specific segment of people or a specific problem. So for example, in my coaching practice, I don't work with all different types of people. I specialize in coaching intelligent, high-achieving people who also tend to be more sensitive. I have a client who started a communications consulting company, and she specifically helps highly technical people in IT and engineering communicate in a way that the average person can understand. So if you are unsure about where to start with your niche, with even figuring that out, you need to get out there. You need to talk to people to understand their needs. So my suggestion is to set up 3 to 5 coffee chats with people in your target niche. These can be potential customers or people within your network. And your goal with those conversations is to understand what their biggest challenges are and where they need help. You can directly ask them those 2 questions. What is your biggest challenge right now? Where do you need help? You don't know what people need until you talk to them. You can take your best guess, but until you hear it in their words and understand their problems, you won't really understand how you can help them. So the best way to research your audience is to get out there and have those direct conversations with them. And based on your knowledge about your niche, this is what you can create your personal brand statement from. Now, this is similar to an elevator statement. It's a short, punchy 1 to 2 sentence summary that encapsulates your personal brand. And it should cover the value you provide, who you do it for, or how you do it uniquely, and who you do it for. So you can do this by really easily filling in these blanks. So I am blank, I help blank understand or do blank so that they can blank. So I want to break down each part of this statement. So the I am. This is who you are, your role, the title you give yourself. It's best if this can have some credibility associated with it. I help. Who do you add value to? This is your target audience or your niche. The understand and do part. This is how you add value to your audience. What do you help them accomplish? And the so that piece, this is probably the most important. This is the type of transformation your audience should expect to receive. So mine would sound like, I'm Melody Wilding, a licensed social worker and executive coach. I help sensitive high achievers stop doubting themselves so that they can reach their potential and thrive in their careers. And here's another for someone who might be a digital marketer. So for example, I'm a digital marketer with 8 years of experience. I help technology companies advertise their services using the power of social media so that they can acquire new customers. Now, I hear from a lot of people who feel like it's hard to squeeze everything they do into one neat, tidy sentence. And I totally get that, which is why I wanted to give you a few other structures so you can fill in the blank, play around, and while you're building your personal brand statement. So here's another example. I'm most passionate about, which is why I blank. So I'm most passionate about helping women look and feel their best, which is why I offer portrait photography for new mothers. Or another version, I wear a lot of hats like producer, project manager, team lead. But what they all have in common is that they require a common skill set. Each requires that I use my strengths in communication and organization to get things done. So You may be multi-passionate just like I am. I'm a coach, I'm a writer, I'm a professor. And for a very long time, I struggled with having these multiple identities. But at the end of the day, the key to crafting your personal brand statement is to find a central theme or a thread that binds your multiple interests together. So a lot of you may be putting pressure on yourself right now. The goal of this personal brand statement isn't to describe everything that you do or give someone your entire resume. That would be nearly impossible. Your goal is to create a brief pitch that is just enticing enough to make someone curious so that they ask to learn more. And every brand also has a distinct voice. They have a certain tone that they strike based on the words they use. So if you think about JetBlue, the airline, they're very friendly, they're very accommodating. Whereas a brand like Nike is much more direct, but also inspiring. So here's just a brief example of how tone can sound different. So you might say, I apologize for the inconvenience, which that strikes a very different tone than saying, sorry about the mix-up. Both statements essentially say the same thing, but which would feel more comfortable to you? Apologies for the inconvenience, or sorry about the mix-up, right? So similarly, your personal brand needs a recognizable voice. This is the vocabulary that you use, certain words and phrases you may use, the way you structure your writing. And your brand voice plays an important role in making sure your message cuts through the noise, because it gives you a memorable personality that makes a lasting impression on people. So one of the best ways to arrive at your brand voice is to think about, how do you want your brand to make people feel? Your action step here is to pick 3 words to describe your brand voice. So maybe that's down to earth, informative, or authoritative. Maybe you want to come off as witty and funny, so you inject humor into your brand. Now, in my case, I consider my personal brand voice to be empathetic, practical, informative. And if you have 3 words, I would love to hear those in the comments. So what do you think your 3 words would be? Or what's one that comes to mind for you when you think about the brand voice and the tone you want to strike? So Yvette says creative, patient, empathetic. Ali says clear, empathetic, funny, empathetic, playful, aspirational, inspirational, expert, collaborative, connected, mathematical, and straight. Interesting. Rational, calm, wise. Those are all great ones. Yeah. Now, number 5, it's important you also have a recognizable, consistent visual identity for your brand across everything you do, from your business cards, your social media headers, your email signature, presentations you give, your website. And your visual identity is made up of 4 basic components. So the first is, sorry about that. The first is your logo. So this could be your initials, your name, a symbol for your business. Mine is just my name and initials. Then we have typography. So this is the font family you use. And different fonts convey different emotions. I know that's a little weird to think about, but you want to be mindful of what fonts you pick and make sure it's easy to read. So it's wise to stick with something that's widely used, like a serif font. For example, that would be like Times New Roman, or Garamond is another popular one, or a sans serif font, something like Helvetica. And colors. Colors have a psychology all their own. People relate red with excitement. They relate purple with authority and sophistication. for example, blue with calming. So the colors you choose can have a really big impact on how your audience perceives you and reacts to your personal brand. And then there's the photos you use alongside your brand. That can change how people perceive you too. So they create what's called your brand aesthetic. So modern, traditional, simple, complex, clean and edgy. Using lots of round shapes in your imagery suggest unity and harmony. Using lots of straight lines, on the other hand, creates a feeling of stability and strength. So these four things, your logo, your typography, your colors, and your imagery, are the building blocks of your visual identity. And when you repeat these consistently, they make you memorable and they convey professionalism and trust. And it also, the consensus among psychologists is that people like what they already know. So reinforcing people's memory of you with visuals helps create a positive connection between your visual identity and your reputation. Okay, so in my opinion, the fun part of building your brand is this piece of really crafting your visual identity. It's really tempting to want to dive in and start picking colors right away. But before you do that, whoop, I think I advanced too quickly. Sorry about that. Oh, no. Before you do that though, your action step for number 5 is to take it slow. So I want you to think about creating sorry, my slides got a little messed up here. I want you to start thinking about brands that appeal to you. So do some research and exploration first. So you'll find that there's certain visual cues like colors, themes, or elements that you naturally gravitate to. So your action step for number 5, that's not on the slides here, but your action step for number 5 is to create a Pinterest board and log the images that appeal to you. So you can pin images, logos, photos, color schemes. And I want you to ask yourself, what do these visual elements all have in common? What 1 or 2 adjectives could you use to describe the common theme? And I'm actually in the process of doing that right now. I'm going through a rebranding process pretty soon, and I'm actually creating my own Pinterest board. So number 6. A picture is really worth 1,000 words. The old saying is true. So if you want people to take you seriously, then you have to look the part. People make snap judgments about your credibility and professionalism based on how you look. So you want to make sure that you're putting that best foot forward. And the way you carry yourself should match up with your personal values and how you want to be perceived online and on a day-to-day basis. So being conscious about the clothes you wear can make or break a person's impression of you. For example, I once had a colleague who was known for wearing very interesting necklaces. She always had these large, oversized, really funky, cool necklaces that she would wear to events. And it really made her memorable. It was a talking piece. It made her stand out in the room. And it was a core part of her brand. And every interaction you have with people in person, at a meeting, on a conference call, it's an opportunity to put that branded self forward. So your action step here is to get professional headshots done. Now, I know that that might sound like a very obvious thing to say, but I see people mess this up all the time. So it is not a good look to have a LinkedIn profile photo or a image on your website that is a selfie or something that was cropped out from a company networking event and there's like one person's arm over the side of you and your eyes are all glared out. That is not a good look. So I understand that personal headshots can be pricey. If you can invest in it, find a photographer local with you. You can even barter and trade for that. But if you don't, then just have a friend take a picture of you in front of a neutral background from about the chest up. It's a really simple way to make sure that you're coming across in a professional way. And you want to upload this same photo across all of your channels. So your LinkedIn, your Instagram, your Facebook, because again, that recognition is really important for likability, using that same consistent photo. And so, speaking of social platforms, it is time to talk about owning your online presence. Now, you first and foremost want to make sure you pass the Google test. So, what I mean by that is, are you happy with what pops up when someone Googles your name? It might sound egotistical to do this, but it is your personal brand insurance. Because today, the first place people turn to look and find out more about you is the internet. So it is critical that you know what comes up when someone searches your name, and to start to take ownership of those results. So the easiest way to do this is building a basic website. You can do that with a tool like WordPress, Squarespace. I also like About Me. It's a very simple one-page website. For beginners, though, I like to suggest focusing on your LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is really looked highly upon by Google, so it is often the first or second thing that will appear when people Google your name. So it's a very, very valuable piece of real estate. And on there, you can just start with the basics. Get your professional headshot up, along with your personal branding statement. Create a banner image at the top that has elements of your visual identity. And make sure that on every social media site, you have at least claimed or actively using a social media handle with your name or your company name. Now, I want you to think back to the third element of creating a strong personal brand that we talked about earlier. That was constancy. And in short, that means keeping yourself visible and staying top of mind with your audience so that you can have an impact. And by doing so, you expose yourself to new people, new opportunities, but you become more familiar. And we as humans trust things that are more familiar. So the best way to stay top of mind and deliver value to your network is by creating original content. And this can be anything: blog posts, Instagram stories, LinkedIn videos, a newsletter. If you work for a company, you might give a lunch and learn or speak at a conference. And so after one of my clients launched a successful multi-million-dollar project at his firm, he went around doing presentations for other teams about what they could learn from the experience and how they could replicate the same model. And this increased his visibility, positioned him as an expert, and it contributed to him actually getting a triple bonus and being honored as one of the top 1% professionals in his field. The key to creating content, though, is to do it consistently. So you will notice that I do not just put one blog post out there. I write consistently, and I have for the past 6 or so years. And I post on social media daily, multiple times daily. I send newsletters weekly, or sometimes I will email you multiple times during a week if I have something important to share. So you can share about anything. I mean, stories about your career path, inspirational content, helpful tutorials and how-to posts, blogs about industry trends. All of that is really valuable to the people who follow you. And I usually suggest that the lowest hanging fruit is to start out with curation. So that means rounding up great blogs, industry news, content that you have found elsewhere. So this can be rounding up the 5 most interesting events happening this month in your area, or the best blog posts you read over the past week or month. Really easy. And so this is a very simple way to get started with creating regular content. And it has a lot of value for people because they don't have time to curate the best things on their own. You're doing the work for them and delivering it right to them. Now, creating original content can seem overwhelming. So I really want you to start small. Just choose one social network where you want to start building your personal brand first. Whether that's Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, just pick one to start. So I want you to, in the comments, let me know which social media network you're really doubling down on right now. And you can use tools, Buffer or MeetEgger are two of my favorites. These are both social media scheduling tools. So you can load post into MeetEgger or Buffer in advance, and that puts your social media on autopilot. So you could do a month or more of social media content, and it's just on what's called evergreen, so it recycles. And this can make it so you're achieving that goal of sharing relevant, valuable information, but you're doing so in an efficient way that doesn't drain your time and energy. Okay, I'm just looking at the comments here. We have a lot of people who are using LinkedIn. That's awesome. Instagram, MySpace. Really? MySpace is still around? Medium. Yes, Medium. I'm going to mention that in just a little bit. So someone asked, MeetEgger and Buffer, they are social media scheduling / calendaring tools. So you can actually see on a calendar when certain posts are meant to go out. So you can use it for that. MeetEgger. I will type it in the comments. Okay, so there you have it. There are the 8 action steps to building your personal brand. So really quickly, let's review. Number 1 is to conduct your 360 survey. Understand how you are perceived. Number 2 is to choose one element of your best self to start implementing. Number 3 is to craft your personal brand statement. Number 4 is to pick 3 words to describe your brand voice. Number 5 is to create your brand board. So that is your Pinterest curated images, inspiration from other brands around the internet and things you love. Number 6 is to get professional headshots. Number 7 is build a home on the web. And number 8 is to choose one social network and start creating original content there. So now that you have a solid playbook for building your personal brand, I very briefly want to go over a few tools. The first is Honeybook. They are a client management software, but they offer a free signature generator tool. And this can help you create one of those custom signatures at the bottom of your email. You can create this with your logo, a photo of yourself, your brand colors. I also suggest if you have a blog or links to work with you, you can add those links to your social media or recent content in your email address as well. And the next, it may seem obvious, but again, I see people overlook this all the time, is to have a professional email address. So you can have one that's connected to your website, hello@yourwebsite.com. But at a minimum, you need a Gmail address. Many people have AOL, Hotmail, Yahoo addresses, and those are perceived as outdated nowadays. So it's really important to get a professional sounding Gmail address, not something like jerseygirl123@gmail.com, but more along the lines of your first name, your last name @gmail.com. And let's talk about reach. So ways to reach more people. So I said I would talk about Medium. Medium, as many of you know, you probably found me on there. Medium is a free blogging platform where you can create original content and reach their over 60 million monthly visitors without having to build a website. So it's a really easy way to start publishing more content without having to go through a whole elaborate website project. And then there is Haro, Help a Reporter Out. This is a completely free service to get publicity and PR really easily. So getting featured in the media is one of the fastest and most effective ways of positioning yourself as an expert and building your brand. And finally, a few tools to make a positive impression. I wanted to mention moo.com, like moo like a cow, moo.com. It's my favorite service for business cards. And I would be remiss if I did not mention our sponsor, Beautiful, for creating amazing professional presentations that look like they're done by a graphic designer. So you can easily plug and play your brand colors, just as I have today, your logos, select imagery that works with your brand to match with your aesthetic. Whether you're presenting a plan to your boss, or a review, delivering a training or a workshop, sharing a proposal, it's great and it really impresses other people. So you look like you have a total cohesive package. And I really like recommending an online scheduler tool. So a service like Calendly, I can put that in the chat too. Calendly or Acuity are great ones. You can set up an online calendar, add your colors and your logos to it. And this sends a message to people that you're organized, you're legitimate, and it just sets a positive boundary around your time so you can really manage it better. Okay, so today we have covered what a personal brand means, how to have a personal brand that elevates your career, the 3 elements all the best personal brands have, shifts to overcome insecurities and barriers that might be holding you back, your 8-step personal brand plan, and some tools for the job. So I want to know, what is one step you will walk away from this training today and implement? I shared a lot of information, threw a lot of stuff at you right now, but information is useless without action. So I want to hear, what will you be implementing? What will you do next? Rebecca says consistency with social media. Morgan says 360 survey. 360 survey, that's great. This is a great place to start. Brand board survey. Continue to refine your unique value promise. Yeah, your unique value promise, I always like to say to people, it's an evolving document, right? As you get feedback from people, as you talk to more people in your niche, you will figure out the words and the phrases that they use. You'll see how people respond to it, and you'll be able to tweak it from there. So it's all about making your best guess, having a hypothesis to work with, and then getting out there and doing the work to refine it. Cool. This is great, everyone. So we covered a lot today. Diana from Beautiful has been in the chat letting people know, but we will be sending out the recording in about 24 hours. So keep your eyes out for that. You'll also get the slides, so no worries there. And I want to give one last huge thank you to Beautiful for bringing this presentation, this masterclass to you completely free today. So if you are ready to create a personal brand that has simplicity, style, and professionalism, then you have to check out Beautiful.AI today. This entire presentation was built using their software, and it is hands down the best and easiest way to create really stunning presentations without having to have a lot of technical skill. So you can sign up using my link at melodywilding.com/beautiful, and we are right on time. So if you do have questions, I can stick around for a minute or two. I'm just going to pop my link in the chat here. So what questions do you have? Is my personal brand statement the same as a purpose statement? I'd be curious to know what your purpose statement is. My hunch is to say that your personal brand statement is more so geared towards value position of what you offer to others as well and how you help solve their problems. It's more of a selling statement. It combines your purpose and your mission and things you're interested in, also with something that people would likely want from you or pay for. How would you refresh your personal brand statement to keep it current? Great question. And Tracy, I think what's involved in your statement is something important to point out, that you need to keep your personal brand statement fresh and current. And this is getting out there and testing it, right? Writing pieces of content around your that extend from that personal brand statement. So what topics extend from that, but also testing out new ones, floating out new ones at networking events, conferences that you go to, and see how people respond to it. How important is it to have a personal brand during a PhD? I would say very important. Having been being in academia, um, it's in academia, it's kind of funny because you actually have a personal brand built into a lot of the research you do. You have a research specialty, right? And that is your personal brand. But you also have a personal brand in terms of the style and how you teach, your tone, how do you run your classes, how do you deal with your students. So the context may be different, but all of that is your personal brand as a PhD. And also, how do others in your field perceive you? What do you want to be known for? What do you want your lasting legacy or the impact of your work to be? And do you need a brand while while being an employee? Yes. um, Here's why. A lot of people think that if you're an employee, you can coast, you can just blend in with the crowd, but even being in a traditional workplace, you need a personal brand in order to stand out, in order to be recognized for your peers, to be tapped for new opportunities, to be the person. What do you want to be expert in? What do you want people to come to you for in your work? What do you want to specialize in? Even if you specialize in being a generalist, if you are that person who is like I think about IT support people, they are the person that everyone comes to with their problems. But how do you solve people's problems? Are you empathetic? Are you straightforward? All of that is your personal brand. So definitely while being an employee, you need one in order to advance. And Venus, great question. If you have a small business, should your personal brand and the company brand be similar? I'm going to say, I don't want to say it depends because I know that's a non-answer. It depends. Yes, they should be similar. They don't have to be part and parcel the same, but I would assume that you started your company. A lot of times entrepreneurs start companies that are an extension of themselves, that are based on something they have gone through or a specialty they have. That's sort of the content of what you do. But there's also the way you do it. So what are your personal values that you bring into the company? Sorry. So Yvette asked, I am changing careers. How do I change my personal brand as the change is very drastic? Should I try to find some kind of connector or just switch my brand to the new one? I would be curious what is leading you to jump to that career. If you can find a connector, that's great. What is the impetus that is leading you to change this career? What skills are you relying on in this career change? How can you, when you're changing careers, it's important to have a narrative, a cohesive narrative of where you were, how you got to where you are now, and where you're going. Okay, everyone, I think that is all we have time for today. So stay tuned for the replay and updates about future events. We will get this recording to you as well as the updated slides. And I want to thank you all so, so much for being here, for spending our time here today. And have a great one. Bye-bye, everyone.